All right, and there we go. It's 9:01. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Rob Pontecorvo. I am the Assessment and Relations Lead for GeoGebra. Running our program for today is Libo Valencia on the line, who is both a GeoGebra guy and a classroom teacher. Libo, why don't you start us off and get us going? We're only going to be here for about 30 minutes, a half an hour, so we want to pack a lot into a short period of time.
Yeah, so thank you for the intro, Rob, and thank you everybody for joining us. So like Rob said, I'm Libo Valencia. I'm a high school teacher. I also teach at the college level. I am a big GeoGebra fan and GeoGebra user. So tonight the goal is to show you some of the new GeoGebra resources and how you could use them to teach operations. So let's start with a brief intro. If you could drop on the chat, what do you teach, where do you teach, and what is your Twitter handle if you have one? So please let us know, what do you teach, what grade level, what are you teaching, where do you teach, and what is your Twitter handle if you have one?
All right. For those of you who don't know, Libo is a big Twitter guy. Libo, why don't you put your handle there in the chat?
Yes, I'm doing that right now. So I'm
good.
Valencia. I'm in New York, and my Twitter handle is at Mr. Valencia 24. So let me share that. Teaching high school and college. Mr. Valencia 24. If you are on Twitter, so let me share that.
All right, excellent.
Nice. Primary mathematics, nice.
That's Libo. That's actually excellent because
excellent.
Right. Let's tell our participants that the resources that we're going to show today are designed in particular for grade 4 through 8 students. That'd be a U.S. grade level 4 through 8. I guess you would say that'd be ages 9 through 13.
13, yeah. That being said, I can share that I've used them with my daughters. I have 2 little ones at home who are 8 and 4, and I've also used these resources with my high school students and college students. But they're designed for grades 4 through 8. So let's go over our agenda for tonight, because like Rob said, we only have about 30 minutes, so we want to make sure that we get as much as we can done. So tonight we'll be talking about the resources on operations. Currently, we have about 129 resources and applets. So during the presentation, during the webinar, we'll have a live exploration. We'll show you how to use the resources from a teacher perspective, what your students are going to see on their end, how you could use these resources in the classroom for different purposes like activations, explorations, practice, and assessment. So that is the goal for tonight. So hopefully by the end of the webinar, you'll know enough so that you could go in yourself and play with these resources, find something that you're teaching this week, find something that might be helpful for you next week in the upcoming weeks. And that is the goal. So let's start with, all of our resources are on the GeoGebra website. If you go to geogebra.org/math, is going to bring you to the new resources. So there are a couple of ways that you could get there. So let me show you. Rob, can you confirm that you could see that I'm in the GeoGebra site?
I can, Libo, and let me let you know
Very
also,
nice.
just so you know, the number of resources now, because they get added to every week. So there's 100 of them there now, right? Yeah, so it's probably could be up in excess of 300 of the resources there now, I think.
Nice. I know it's like constantly updating, it's constantly growing. So by the time I made the presentation, it was close to 200, but now I know we have more. So once you go to the GeoGebra site, there is 2 ways that we recommend for you to get to the resources. So on the left, you can see that there is a tab for resources. If you click on there, it's going to bring you to the resources, which are organized by different topics. You have algebra, geometry, measurements, number sense, operations, and probability. Last time during our first webinar, we covered the topic of number sense. That video is on our YouTube channel. And tonight we'll be talking about operations. The other thing that you could do is, if you are on the GeoGebra website, right below the calculator, we have also a tab for math resources. If you click in there, it brings you directly to all of our resource collection. So let me go back to my webinar. So once you are on the, you know what, let me just stick on the website. Stay on the website. Let me go in here. So once you're in here, if you click on operations, it's gonna even like break it up a little more. So you have, like Rob mentioned before this, resources are intended for grades 4 through 8 in the US. And they're nicely like organized by grade level and topics. So you have upper elementary, grades 4 to 5. So you have everything covering like addition, division, mixed numbers, and all the different things that you see in here. And then you also have some middle school resources, grades 6 through 8, starting with absolute value, division. So there is like an overlap in terms of like the topics. But our collection for middle school has more topics, has more resources, as you can see. So some of these resources are the ones that we're going to be exploring tonight. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, Rob.
Well, some people are asking in the chat about, you mentioned US resources, are there translations? We have a very active user community that are already working on doing translations, for different languages. Of course, all the GeoGebra calculators and materials there are probably translated into, I think, over 70 languages. So there will be translations hopefully coming out, relatively soon from our user community also.
Nice. Also, like my first language is Spanish, and I can tell you that there's like a lot of like not only is there like a big community, GeoGebra community that is like willing to help translate resources, but the resources tend to be so visual. I can tell you that I've found resources from like teachers in like France and like all the parts of the world where I don't speak the language, but I understand the resource. Like math is that beautiful that we can like find something like, oh my God, this is perfect for my class. I can like make some edits, change the instructions here and there. But even if like you don't speak English, you could still find something that you could use with your students. All right. So let's start. We're talking about like all those resources. Let's experience them. So that's the first part, is like, this is how you find the resources. This is kind of like how they're organized. So within our resources, there are two types. We have exploration type resources and we have practice resources. So tonight we're going to start with the exploration resources. So the first exploration resource that we're going to look at is an applet on percentages, fractions, and decimals. So at this point, I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to drop it on the chat for everybody. All right, so the link has been dropped on the chat. And now I'm going to go into percentages, fractions, and decimals. All right, so once you click on the link, it's going to open this resource. Notice that it tells you that the author of this resource is the GeoGebra content team. Like Rob said, we have a big community of GeoGebra users. So a lot of the users put resources, making resources available to the community. But this one, that was made by the GeoGebra team, as opposed to like Livo Valencia or Rob or somebody else. Now you can see that the topic is percentages. It's an exploration type of resource. When we do the practice, you see that it's like labeled different, and the grade level. It gives you a little like a little background on the skill. And then it tells you, like, what are we doing with this applet? What are we doing with this research? We're going to explore the meaning of percentage by relating fractions and decimals. So I'm going to make it, let's explore the resource. So you should be looking at this. It is now, all right, so we should be able, let me get out of there. Let me bring it here.
What Livo is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can maximize that on your screen at home. It's probably
I see. You know what? It was the chat. Yes.
Right. You're in a Zoom, so it's not going to work quite the same way, but I'm working it at home. I'm clicking on that. I'm maximizing it on my other screen, and I got a full-blown screen of that resource. Yep.
All right. So let me just maybe refresh it. See if that helps. I think you're right. I think it's because
I think it's the Zoom. It's the Zoom taking it.
So let me just open it again. All right. So let me do this. All right, so now I'll just keep it like this.
Yeah, you can work it from there. That's fine.
Yeah, there you go. So if it's just because of the Zoom did it, I couldn't like fix it. But if you so it tells you, it gives you instructions. Notice the instructions are like you should be able to see. It tells you what we want you to do with it. drag to fill in the grid. So as we play with this, as we move along the grid, you can see how the percentage changes, how that affects the line, and how the pie chart is also being affected. So you can see students can see like 3 different versions of like percentage and the decimal, and all they can also see it on the number line, which can be very helpful for students to see multiple representations of the same concept, because it can help them make connections, or it can help, even if they don't need to make the connection, it can help them gain a deeper understanding on the topic.
Leva, what's important to tell everybody is that because this is an exploration resource, there's no right or wrong, right? A child doesn't have to worry, and there's no risk to the child. They're exploring, they're playing with it, and they're observing, right? This exploration resource might very much be used to start a conversation in the class so that the teacher works the lesson and discusses what she wants to discuss. As a matter of fact, below that visual, there are several questions that the teacher can use. But those questions really serve 2 purposes. One purpose is, of course, you might want your students to answer those questions. Great. But another purpose of those questions is to act as prompts to the teacher, where it says, look, you're the teacher, you're going to work this lesson however you want. These are some concepts or questions you might want to ask so that the kids kind of start to understand these concepts. So they're questions for the kids, and they're questions for the teachers as well as prompts to keep the discussion of this resource going well.
Right. I love like this, opening the questions, like how are they the same? How are they different? I use them in my classroom all the time, because it's not, like Rob said, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's very invited, it's very open-ended, and it can really like start a discussion for you to get a sense of like, okay, like what do they already know about percentages, about decimals, and how can we use that to build into the objective of the lesson. We do have this question. So this is one type of resource that students can use. They can see the grid model, they can see the pie chart, and it's completely interactive. Again, there's no right or wrong. This is just an exploration type of resource. All right, let me go back, and we want to show you another type of resource. So on the presentation, I do have that highlighted, that this is an exploration type of resource. And now let's take a look at this one. So let's say that your students are studying multiplying fractions, which is something that that we do a lot. So once again, let me copy. I copied the thing, but I didn't put it on the chat. So
yeah, you want to post that, right? Post that URL in the chat.
Yep.
Good.
Put it
Thank
there.
you.
All
Good.
right. So now we're going to be looking at multiplying fractions.
We're good.
So let's close this. So let me multiplying fractions. So once again, you can see that this resource was made by the GeoGebra team. You can see the topic. It is an exploration type of resource intended for grades 4 through 5. So in here, once again, let's say we have 2 fractions, 1/2 times 5/7, and then you have a visual representation, a graphic representation of the fraction. And then let's see what happens as we slide to explore. All right, so it's going to bring this over here. Then it's going to bring the 5/5. And now notice there is an overlap for representing the solution for this problem, which I think can be very, very powerful, because even like we could tell students, right, we're going to multiply the numerator by the numerator, denominator by the denominator. And a lot of our students are going to get that, are going to understand it. But being able to like visualize it in one applet can make a difference for a lot of our learners. And now, because this is an exploration type of applet, students can just hit on new fraction and then see what's happening. And again, you could, as a teacher, you could use this as, this could be my activation. I could give them this resource, let them play with it, and then come up with follow-up questions. Like, what do you notice? What is happening? What was the same? What was different between like different fractions that you tried? And just like on the previous resource, you do have some one question at the bottom, putting it all together is what we call it, where it can help for students to like come up with like an observation. What did they notice? What are they still wondering about? So this could be a very, very powerful and useful resource for teacher. I don't know if you want to, there's anything that you want to add, Rob.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, if the people on the webinar are clicking on your link, they might be saying to themselves, hey, mine looks different than yours. Yes, each time GeoGebra generates a new question, there are new numbers. So there's really an infinite number of questions here, or a different number of resources. So after you click a link at home, you might come up with a different set of fractional values. That's okay. It's still the same concept of multiplying fractions, right? It's almost, we have actually desire it to generate all different types of values. The other thing I wanted to mention, Lebo, if you could scroll down to the bottom, underneath the resource, the users might also start to notice that GeoGebra also gives suggestions for like prerequisite resources, right? In other words, what might a teacher want to use if they feel their student is not quite ready for this? Below that, there are more resources like this, more on operations with fractions. So if my child needs more practice on this topic, are there any other resources like that? And the third category would be next resources, right? So that's if they're mastering this, what maybe do I want to work on next? And again, our users at home shouldn't think of this as a curriculum or as a course that they would follow. They already have their own curriculum, right? And they already have their own course that they follow. These are just suggestions about the activities that they might want to use earlier or after the one that they're playing with right now.
And it could be a for differentiation, it could be an enrichment activity that you could do on the fly to like address the different needs of your learners in your classroom. So thank you for like bringing that to my attention, Rob.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, those are two exploration type of resources. The next one that we want to show you is a practice resource. So let me go back in here. All right, so the two that we did were exploration. Now let's take a look at a practice type of resource. And for this one, we'll do it. We'll first let you play with it, and then we'll take a look at it. How does it look in GeoGebra classroom mode? So I'm going to copy the link, drop it on the chat, and now we're going to be looking at missing fraction to make a whole. All right, so now let's go into the resource. All right, so this is finding the missing fraction to make a whole. So notice in this case, once again, you could see that this was created by the GeoGebra team. You could see the topic, but now notice how this one, instead of exploration, is a practice. So I want you to take a look at this resource. It kind of tells you like what fraction do you need. And again, as Rob mentioned, your fraction might be different than mine. That's okay. So you could have two students sitting next to each other that are looking at the same type of skill, but it's a different problem. So what fraction do I need to add to 2/6 to make a whole? And then you see that the right side is highlighting because this is a sign that this is interactive. So I'm going to say, okay, so I want to add 4/6 to make it into a whole. And then notice that now I have a button that is going to tell me to check. So once I click in there, it's going to put it all together and show me that this is actually correct. And then just like before, I can now create a new problem. So now this time, let's say that one of your students, right? Like let's say that they make a mistake. Let's say, let's check. So now notice it did the same thing. It's kind of like putting it all together, just showing them, okay, like this is not quite what we want. Why don't we try it again? So now I'm gonna say 2/9, see what happens. So now notice the first time that we made a mistake, GeoGebra kind of like showed me graphically, okay, like this is not quite 1. And then now for the second time that I make a mistake, it's showing me again. But now for that student that needs the extra scaffold, it's giving me a hint. It's saying, well, count the numbers in total and then like see how many we're missing to make the whole. And now let's see. All right, I want to get this completely wrong. All right, so now it's showing me that now I actually had extra and it's showing me a solution. So this could be very, very useful if you're practicing, if you're reviewing, if you want to get, and it's very interactive. So your students will have fun with it. Also, students are not all doing the same thing. So they're not able to like copy from one another. They might be able to help one another, but that's a good thing because if students are able to help one another, because they actually understand it. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, Rob, before we show
what I've noticed as I'm showing this to teachers is they're realizing GeoGebra is a teaching tool, and it's a very gentle teaching tool. In other words, if a child gets something wrong, they get to try it again. If they get it wrong again, they get a hint, right? And if they get it wrong again, Well, then we'll show you the answer so that maybe you can get the next one right. And the user should notice that in the bottom left, GeoGebra is keeping account of the number of problems that the child gets right, right? They don't count how many the child is getting wrong. They're not worried about that. This is a teaching tool. They're counting how many they get right. So it's very gentle. So what I'm learning is that teachers are using these resources and doing things like telling their kids, look, do this until you get 5 right, right? Because they know, look, if they got 5 right, they might have got some wrong, but I don't care if they got some wrong. I know that if they got 5 of these right, they're on their way, right? They're probably on the right track and they're starting to pick up the material and they know what's going on. So that's the way GeoGebra tries to act as a teaching tool, and a very gentle teaching tool where it gives hints, it shows the right answer if you can't continue to get it, not just the answer, but an explanation of the answer. And then it keeps track only of what you've done correct.
There you go. I actually like that it doesn't count the ones that they get wrong, because that's something like we're just keeping it positive, right? And like you said, as a teacher, you could say, okay, let's do this. Show me that you got 10 of them right. And some students will do more than that. Some students will just do 10 because you only asked for 10, Mr. Valencia. But like some students will like take it way beyond that. Just like on the other resources, we have explore more, more operations with fractions, next resources. So if your students are mastering this, or if they need more help, more of a foundation, GeoGebra is going to have some options, some suggestions in here. All right, so at this point, what I would like to bring to your attention is that we can use this. So any teacher, right, whether they have a GeoGebra account or not, can go on the GeoGebra site, can find something that they like, can open it on the smartboard or on a computer lab and show it to their students. Now, GeoGebra also gives you the option of like using the resources in GeoGebra classroom mode. Now, before I show you that, I just want to bring to your attention that in order for you to be able to do that, you must be signing to your account. So I want to show you that right now on the upper right, I'm signing into my account. So you do need an account to be able to play with the resources on GeoGebra classroom mode. The account is completely free. You just set it up. And one thing that I want to show you, like one of the advantages of setting up an account is that you can create folders where you start to find things like, oh, like this might be good for addition, or this might be good for algebra, this might be good for geometry. And then you start to organize your resources according to like your needs. Okay, so the important thing is that you must be signing to your account to be able to play with GeoGebra Classroom. So this is, am I back into the resource? Yes. So now that I'm here, I want to show you that on the upper right, it says assign to. So there are two options. There's a Google Classroom option and there's a GeoGebra Classroom option. For the purpose of our webinar, I'm going to click on the GeoGebra Classroom and then it's going to bring me here. I think I called this like webinar 2 and then like finding the missing fractions. So then I'm just going to go ahead and create. All right. So because I had this ready, let me see. Let me just go back quickly. Give you the correct link. All right, because I think this is the one that I have. All right, so now it's going to bring me to this menu. So it says webinar. It has the name of the resource that I'm using. You can like customize it. You can say like course 1 if you have like different classes. And now students have this link. So your students can get here in like one of two different ways. You could literally take this link, right? Copy this link and paste it. Share it with them, maybe give it to them through your LMS, like whether it's like Google Classroom, Canvas, whatever you're using, you could just send them the link. Or you could also have students go into geogebra.org/classroom and then type in the code. So students will go into geogebra.org/classroom, type in the code, and then they should be able to join the lesson. So I see now that I have one student logged in. Now we have 2 students logged in. And then from your end, I think I have it open in here. All right, so this is what I get. So one thing that your students might ask is, Mr. Valencia, do I need a GeoGebra account? The answer to that is no. So like if your students having a GeoGebra account, great. But if they don't, they can just say, okay, type in their name and then go start. So now as a student, right, that this is the student view, I can see the resource, right? And as a teacher, let me just break my screen or divide it into halves. So as a student, I'm now able to play with the resource. I can start playing with the resource. And then as a teacher, I can see who's doing what. So at this point, as a teacher, you can say, hey, Lebo, let me know if you need help with anything, because I noticed that you haven't started. And then I'm going to show you that once I click on the right side, so the right side is my student view as Lebo, and then the left side is what the teacher sees. So I'm going to start, all right, so I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to say I need 4/5, and I'm going to check this. So at this point, notice that as a teacher, I see that now Lebo completed a problem. And then, as we mentioned, you could do this forever. You could have an unlimited amount of problems, and then you could check, and then you could see what's happening. And then from the teacher's dashboard, I can see what Lebo is doing. Rob, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add.
Well, again, because I've been in the classroom lately and I've been watching teachers use this, another thing that I've found teachers have been doing, Lebo, you could show also in the classroom that they can hide the names or they could show the names. And as the
Yes,
teachers
all right, so let me go.
Yeah, as the teachers go through the kids in their classroom, what many of them are doing is not just recognizing when kids have many right, but they're also recognizing when a student has, let's say, very few right. Like, for example, I think if you click on me, Lebo, well, show the names again and click on me.
All right, there you are. Student 2.
Click on me to make me larger. You can see I've already got, I think, down on the bottom 4 right? So if you're a teacher in the classroom, you might say to yourself, okay, Rob kind of knows what's going on. He's got 4 of these right already. Whereas opposed to if you see another kid that only has 1 or maybe even none right, you might want to go in and give that child some help, right? You want to give them some attention. You recognize that they need some assistance. Yeah.
And like, I love that you could make it, you could hide the names, and then you as the teacher could see it, and then you could just, go over the shoulder and be like, is everything okay? Can I help you with anything? What do you, so like, it's not, public. Not everyone's going to find out that the student needs help. Also, the other thing is that if I see that Rob is getting all 10 of them right, I might pair them up. All right, like, Rob, why don't you guys like work together as a team? Let's see how many you could get together, or something like that. So this is live information. You will get this information right away. The link will stay open for as long as you want. And then you could use the same type of lesson for like your next class. Also, like when it comes time for like a review or an assessment, these are fantastic resources to practice.
So, Lebo, it's getting late. Let's try to summarize just what we've covered then. So we showed them the GeoGebra homepage and how they can get to these resources. We showed them that basically the resources is divided up into pretty much 6 major topics. In those topics, there are subtopics where a teacher can look for kids' work for grades 4 and 5 or 6, 7, and 8, right? Upper elementary or middle school. And we mentioned that there are 2 different types of resources. There are exploration resources and there are practice resources. And then what you also did was you showed us how to share these resources directly with a student on their device by pushing it out to them, let's say through either Google Classroom or GeoGebra Classroom, right?
Right.
We've got about a minute left. If you could go back to the GeoGebra homepage, I would just like it if you would point out to them where they can learn more information about how to do or use the different pieces of GeoGebra. That would be down there. You got it. Go ahead.
So we have the tutorials. So all the way. So if you go on the GeoGebra website, geogebra.org, all the way on the bottom, you have tutorials on different things. GeoGebra help, getting started. GeoGebra, like specific help, like GeoGebra Classroom, some of the resources. We also encourage you to like visit the GeoGebra YouTube channel, because there we also have like a wealth of resources to help you get from like different topics, like GeoGebra experts to like first getting started with GeoGebra.
Excellent. I think you're right. So, Lebo, we probably have less than a minute left. Do you have any final comments for our participants for today?
No, like, thank you so much for joining us. We really hope that this was helpful. If you end up using this like resources tomorrow, please let us know. How did it go? How can we help? The GeoGebra Twitter account is very active. We try to like provide help. If you like tag me, if you ask a question to me on Twitter at Mr. Valencia24. If I don't know the answer, I might point you in the right direction. But like I said, the GeoGebra community is very supportive. If you come across like a problem, an issue, let us know, and we'll try to do the best we can to help you.
Excellent. Want to thank everybody very much for coming today. We've recorded this session, so we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. Hopefully, we will also get a chance to send a link to that recording to all those who registered. Want to thank you all for your very pleasant comments in the chat. Thank you very much. Please remember that Lebo and I will be back here 1 month from now on the second Monday of December. And what's exciting about it, I'm sorry? Wednesday, second Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just go back and check all my dates for that. So that's actually December 13th, where we will be showing some of the algebra resources. So please try to join us on December 13th. Want to thank everybody very much for coming. And it's Rob Pontecorvo and Lebo Valencia saying so long for now. Lebo.
Thank you, guys. If you want the copy of the presentation, just scan the QR code and you will get this presentation, the resources, the link. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you back in December. All right. I think you're still recording.
Yeah, hold on. I have to turn that off. Can you stop screen sharing so I can see all my buttons? Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
And then turn it off. There we go. All right. Thanks, Lebo. Talk to you later.
Oh, Rob.